Welcome to episode 2. I'm your guide, Iram Saeed, in exploring energy, the ultimate healer. In episode 1, we learned about energy, what energy healing is, the energetic causes of disease, and how healing energy impacts the body and transforms disease. Now it's time to see how energy healing actually works in real-time situations. In this episode, we'll be following Virginia Rounds Griffith, a medical intuitive and energy healer who works with clients who are experiencing structural issues with their spinal and skeletal systems. You'll see her in action with her client, Wendy Yost. You'll hear from another client of Virginia's who has had amazing results.
My name is Virginia Rounds Griffiths, and I'm living in the United Kingdom in a beautiful place called Salisbury. I came to the UK from the South Pacific, and I've lived in many countries. America is one of them, as well as Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, and of course the Pacific Islands. A long, long time ago, when I was only just 7 years old, I had a near-death experience in the Pacific Ocean. And it was really, really interesting because I should have perished. But my journey obviously wasn't done. But I'll always remember very, very vividly how people talk about the light when you're going to source. And when I was struggling, because I knew I was going to die, when I was struggling, it was really difficult and I was afraid. But when I realized that that was it, I was dying, I surrendered. And in the surrender, I will always remember seeing exactly what people talk about, the light in the distance, feeling the energy, the amazing, incredible love that came from Source at that time. A lot of discomfort, a lot of dis-ease, a lot of angst, a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety comes from not being connected to Source, not being connected to the reason why we're here, to the spirit of part of us. And when people start to come into that realization, it's this aha. And this is when also the body starts to mend, when we are connected back to the real part of who we are. Our souls can be fragmented. So when trauma is experienced in our lives, those fragments of our souls can be left in different places wherever the trauma has happened. So this is about bringing the soul together, all those bits that have been left in different places over time.
Let's take a moment here and get a better understanding of what energy healers are talking about when they refer to things like the spirit and soul of a human being, as well as how the spirit and soul relate to the body and how they relate to the healing process.
So we are consciousness itself. We are pure awareness. That's what we are. And so we are compressing ourselves into a funnel, into a channel, and we are descending into this realm that we call the physical dimension. This energy is pure spirit energy. This energy descends to the earth and hits the earth and begins to rise up. We know this by measuring the biofield, and that there is energy that is influencing the biofield that rises from the earth, rises up through the body and cycles around the outside of this body. Even before it is a body, this pattern of cycling is occurring. In fact, the body is built inside of this constant repetition of flow. And as that energy is rising, it is rising as high as it can go and generating this toric field flow and energy field, which is our subtle anatomy. The rising energy is the soulful energy. The spirit energy is the descending energy.
You can't really become aware of self without other sources to contrast yourself towards, to become aware. You're only aware of yourself through other objects, through other sources of consciousness. So it's pretty clear that at some point in this creation process, it just wasn't a matter of just pure energy waves or physical matter. There were other points of consciousness that were part of this light stream continuum, and that would be soul. Those other points of consciousness is what we would call soul mind, or the Greeks called psyche. It's all the same. Soul or soul mind, and those are independent operators, in effect, that had free will, to either align themselves with the source or go off and have their own experience. Soul is contrasted to spirit. There is a distinction in spiritual tech. Soul mind starts to come to think of itself as the independent operator. It's very much tied up with egoic mind, because the soul, in essence, has really forgotten the source from where it came from.
So when a healer is working with a recipient at the deep soulful level, or the spiritual energy that they are cultivating and calling forth and inviting it to emerge to the surface of the recipient's life, what's happening is that they're dialing into this frequency, because the pure spirit energy is a slightly different frequency of energy than this rising soulful energy would be. And so we're tapping into that energy and communing with it, sensing into it, perceiving what it is expressing.
Hi, Wendy. Great to have you on board, lovely. And I know it is the first time that you and I have met, so I'm really grateful for the form that you sent in, because it gives me an idea of what we're working with today. I wonder, because you've given me also little snippets of where your pain threshold is or your discomfort is, from the minimum and then to the maximum. So at this time, I just want to ask you, as you're sitting there right now, where is your pain, if at all, and what intensity is it?
So my name is Wendy Yost, and I am in a bit of a transition right now. This week, I actually am retiring from a role that I had for 14 years with a local university as a part-time lecturer. Beyond that, I do coaching and consulting, and then I do a lot of writing. And so I really enjoy writing. So I think it was around 2006, I was in a different role with the same university, and we were taking students out on a horseback riding trip. This was not the kind of very slow ride where you're, one behind the other, going very slowly up and down a trail. Like, we were able to run the horses at full gallop.
So I landed on my left shoulder in sand, gratefully wearing a helmet. The horse turned unexpectedly because it knew the way back to the barn, but I didn't. And so, and I'm 6 feet tall. So and so not only am I 6 feet tall, but they had me on a very large horse.
Right.
And at the time, everything that was diagnosed was just like soft tissue, massage, ice, heat. But that kind of began my time going to chiropractors.
There were just some things that were exacerbated by having fallen on this side of my body with the impact that I did. Chiropractic care, acupuncture. Actually, I was very fortunate in that the university at the Student Health Center has an acupuncturist. She was doing the acupuncture that you run a current through. She was doing cupping. She was doing moxibustion, which is like where they use heat to pull out the toxins and the things that are not good for you. I think I'm up to like maybe a dozen different kinds of massages, like whether it's like a hot stone massage and Himalayan stones, and they've got cold stones. I've tried the CBD massage. There was a massage that I had that used heated bamboo, and the result of those different things was typically temporary relief.
The very first thing that I'm picking up here, Wendy, and when the energy comes on me, my funny faces and all kinds of things happen. And sometimes my brain goes tink. Anyway, the very first thing I pick up here, your head is not sitting right on your shoulders and on your neck bones. All right? Okay. Your head is tilted. I don't know whether you've noticed at any stage that your head may be tilted to the right-hand side. Sometimes when we're at rest, the head can tend to go, fall to that side. But I'm picking up that your head is tilted to the right. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to, everything starts from the top. It may be felt here, but we've got to start from the top. So I'm just going to realign. And are you a person that feels energy, Wendy?
I am.
Okay. So all I want you to do is just close your eyes and just feel what it is that is happening. And if you can if you can just tell me what you feel, if anything, you're very welcome to do so. So I'm just realigning your skull on top of your neck bones.
So my shoulders just dropped.
Brilliant. Okay. And as a consequence, can you feel any energy freeing up? Anything at all. It doesn't matter. You don't have to, but so from my perspective, yeah.
What I'm feeling is something that sometimes happens where I start moving kind of back and forth in like a slow rhythm.
Yeah.
I haven't ever figured out what that means. I just know that something's happening when that's happening. Where
That's
there's just
energy, lovely. Yeah, that's the energy and that's the healing that's coming upon you right now. Okay. Oh, jeez. So it's just real. Thank you.
so it just feel like I'm stretching. Like I feel like you're giving me a Thai massage but you're in the Scottish Highlands and I'm in Southern California. So I'm a little bit perplexed, but I'm going with it.
Just go with it, lovely, because it'll be to your benefit, believe you me. That's so funny. And I'm glad that you feel this energy like this because it's...
And like tears are coming out of my eyes, which is not unusual for me.
You know what's happening, don't you? There's a release going on right now. Okay? So if you feel like that, you just go with it. All right? Release. Just say, I'm releasing whatever energy has been stuck in my neck, in my skull. I'm releasing it now.
I'm releasing.
Yeah, let's let it go, Donna.
I'm releasing whatever energy has been stuck in my neck and skull. I'm releasing.
This is emotions, sweetheart. This is all about emotions. We have no idea how much emotional stuff that we've got stuck in our bodies. So that's why emotions are really, really important for us to go through. But of course, a lot of, especially women, because we are internal beings, we internalize everything and the emotions are paramount. Now, it's a really interesting thing because I find that the emotions also trigger the endocrine system, thyroids, etc.
Well, and as the tears come, I was thinking this morning, why was I on that horse? And I was on that horse because an employee at the time wasn't able to participate in the event and we were short-staffed and I was having to step in for something that I wouldn't normally need to step in for. Mm-hmm. But I was also at that point in a job that it was probably already time for me to have left it. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't left it. I was married at the time and I needed to provide the income for us while my husband at the time was having different transitions with his work. When I think about that moment, there was a lot around the physical thing that happened. Yep. That had emotional layers to it.
Yes, absolutely, lovely. I can fully understand what you're saying. Yeah, and this is so much. You were under a lot of pressure for different things. Yeah, and so this. Now I'm just going to realign your sphenoid bone. The sphenoid bone sits inside the brain, and it's intertwined with the brain. So
I feel a lot of heat right now, just moving through my body.
Beautiful. Oh, lovely. So I'm looking at your skull bone, the base of your skull now. That's feeling so much better. Looking at the disc between that and the atlas. And that's fine. C1, disc. C2, disc. C3, disc. C4, disc. So from my perspective, your neck bones they're in alignment now. Does that feel like it to you?
It felt while you were doing that like the center of me, like a rod that runs the center of me with my spine. It just felt like strengthened.
I'd like to pause here for a moment and introduce you to another client of Virginia's. Almost 20 years ago, Sharon Storr had an accident at the hospital where she worked. Her injuries were severe, causing years of debilitation and pain from which she could get no lasting relief.
This happened 19 years ago. 19 years ago this month, I had to learn how to walk twice. So no, I was not paralyzed, but I had paresis, that like my body parts were numb, and up into my face, my eyeball, my ear, side of my head, all that numb. Instead of being like paralyzed over these 19 years, like I said, I would just not give up, not stop, just kept going. And then, I'm getting emotional, but the real biggest improvement was when I met Miss Virginia. My first treatment, I remember that I was lying in the bed and I couldn't get up really much, hardly, you know what I mean? But then in the subsequent treatments, my recollection is that every single one of them, I was able to sit up with some pillows behind me, and sort of how I am now, propped up a bit. What do you have to lose? Because your soul wants to get better. I don't think deep down inside anybody wants to be a quadriplegic in a bed.
So I'm just going to ask them to realign the left clavicle and the left rib cage. Tell me if you felt anything happening then, please, Wendy.
I felt some heat, and to the point where I wanted to kind of kick off my little slippers. I got an image of a spiral going up and then like elongating, like tightening up around the core.
When we hook up healers to EEGs, their brain waves are normal. They're all over the place like yours and mine would be. But when they enter the healing state, their brains are usually at 7.8 cycles a second. Their neurons are firing predominantly at 7.8 cycles per second. Not only that, they entrain the brain waves of the person that they're healing at that 7.8 hertz level. And this is true regardless of whether they're Christian faith healers, whether they're Brazilian shamans, whether they're Native American medicine women, whether they are faith healers, whether they are healing touch practitioners. All of them come into this frequency of 7.8 cycles per second. That also happens to be the predominant frequency of planet Earth. It's called the Schumann frequency, and it's been known about in science for a century now. And so the Earth's primary vibrational frequency is 7.8 cycles per second. So one hypothesis for distant effects is that we're entraining to the Earth's frequency.
Let's see if we can break that down a bit. So healers of all kinds have been proven to drop their brainwave states down to around 7.8 hertz when they're doing healing work. This is also known as the alpha wave frequency that occurs when you're meditating. Because this is the same resonant frequency of the entire planet, which is called the Schumann resonance, it is theorized that the brain waves of healers like Virginia can link to the resonant waves of the Earth and thus instantly connect with a client like Wendy, thousands of miles away. Another theory that possibly explains distance healing involves solar storms and something called field line resonance, which are lines of magnetic forces that build up around the planet. Some healers and meditators have been found to be able to sync up their brainwaves with these global magnetic patterns, which, because they are global and affect everyone, might be a mechanism for instantaneous transmission of healing energy from the healer to the client, no matter where they are on the planet.
So in one amazing set of experiments, researchers measured the heart coherence of a volunteer who was skilled at doing this for 30 days. So for a whole 30 days, they had his daily cycles of his level of heart coherence. They then looked at sunspots and these giant electromagnetic surges that occur in the planet. So essentially you have the sun, it has a solar wind shooting past the Earth at about 2 million miles an hour, and that distorts the Earth's magnetic field, and this produces fluctuations in the Earth's level. These are called the field line resonances, and they're well understood, they're well measured, and they're various frequencies. But what this study did was it compared the field line resonances of the Earth and the fluctuations in those resonances for a month with the heart coherence of the volunteer. And when you superimpose the two graphs, they look like this. They look the same. That experiment has now been replicated several times with larger groups of people. And so it looks like when we come into coherence, we're coming into coherence with nature itself. And the other corollary to that is that we're also in phase with every other human being who is also in phase. So when I'm in my heart, when I'm deep in heart coherence and I'm in one part of the world, I'm now in coherence with nature, with those field line resonances, and with everyone who is in that state of coherence, wherever they are in the world.
Tell me how you're feeling, lovely.
I'm feeling just a little just bewildered by what feels like it shifted. I'm thinking about all the times I go to get a massage and they say drink tons of water after this, and I'm like, am I gonna have to go lay down for the rest of the day? What? Do I need to go change my clothes and take a shower? What?
No, Wendy. All you do is you just drink some water, lovely, and you go and take yourself into nature where you can help, to nurture your soul and your body. Okay? That's it. Simple. That's it. Okay? So on a scale of where we started and to where you are now, if you could go back to where you were before, even last night or this morning before we came on the call, how would that feel compared to where you are now?
What comes to mind is that I didn't even know how bad it was because I had gotten so used to it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just pain. I was just treating the pain.
The symptoms, yeah.
The symptoms.
Yeah.
But the symptoms had gotten to become so normal that I just was living with more than I needed to be.
That's so typical, Wendy. A lot of people, it just becomes a norm. They've forgotten how feeling good feels, right? They always have some kind of scale of pain, and that's what they live with.
So after my first session with Virginia, I was very relieved. And some of the things that really stood out were at one point, I remember she said, put your arms down by your side and then just, share what sensations are happening. And it was after she had done a couple of different things that I was feeling sensations in my body, but I felt like what I remember saying was there's swamp water dripping from my fingers. That's how it felt, just kind of murky swamp water. And then I also remember different times where I felt heat move through my body. It felt like she was doing kind of a Thai massage where she is not, we are on the computer. She is not in the same room with me. We are not even in the same state or country. If I think back to the session, I had some of the flashes that came is just how fully I give myself to whatever I take on professionally, and how I don't always take great care of myself. I'm gonna do what the team requires, and it's not it's not always what works best for me. And so I think especially earlier this summer, turning 50, like one of the things that I was looking at during that birthday celebration was like, what do I not want to carry forward? And what's ready to shift in some new way. A lot of times I do what's needed for the whole instead of considering myself. But I think that there are things that I am learning to do differently that take into account the systems and the communities that I'm a part of, but don't prioritize that above my own well-being.
You need to do a ritual on that. You need to do a cutting of the cords to do with that you've been for so long with. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we'll do that right now. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So once again, because we're still connected to the heart source, okay, to this triple heart, I want you to go down into your heart center again, and I want you to say these words: I release.
I release. I release.
I release 3 times.
I release. I release.
Yeah.
I release.
All of my connection to the
all of my connection
to the institution
that
I spent so many years helping. Yep. I release this now.
I release this now.
Through the source of all that is.
Through the source of all that is.
My time with this institution is now no more. Whew.
My time with this institution is now no more.
And I willingly and wholeheartedly give gratitude for that learning.
And I willingly and wholeheartedly give gratitude for that learning.
But my time and my energy is now mine.
But my time and my energy is now mine.
To go forward.
To go forward.
For my highest good.
For my highest.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Cutting cords to the past and negative people and experiences is a wonderful tip from Virginia that all of us can use anytime, day or night. In our next episode, we meet Marlene Allen, spiritual healer, quantum activator, and past life intuitive who specializes in crisis clearing. She's also the founder of Your Body Power Life Expansion Coaching. This episode with Marlene focuses on examining how disease is intertwined with past life histories and past life emotional and physical trauma, and how those traumas can be cleared in the present time. If you have questions or would like additional information about the healers and experts being interviewed in this series, just visit BlissupNow.com. In the meantime, stay tuned, stay well, and see you soon for episode 3.
Bringing matter to existence, I find it in the manner of your voice. We'll call upon the ocean for assistance to swallow all our doubts and speed our voice.